you told today about the likelihood, you said hope springs eternal, but that somebody will be able to be pulled out alive from this, and what were you able to convey to the families about that possibility?
Well, look, first of all, the families are very realistic. They know the longer it goes, and one of the things that the local FEMA personnel, as well as the local first responders, did is they took all of the families to the site to see what it looked like up close. And they're all realists. They all look and they see those floors just literally feet, cement upon cement upon cement. You know, when I talked to some of the families, some of the people who did escape, who survived, got out, they talked about watching the building collapse and watching as they were in the garage, one floor come down literally as a whole floor on top of another floor. They know that the chances are, as each day goes by, diminish slightly. But at a minimum, they want to recover the bodies. They want to recover the bodies. There's a lot of very religious people who are in there. Members of the rabbis in the Jewish community were talking about the need to make sure that they recover the body and be able to bury them, give them, and anyway. So I think they're very realistic, Mike, but I don't think that in any way suggests that it's too we should stop. I think that we should move on, continue to try to recover the bodies. In the meantime, that's why NISTA and others are determining whether or not it's safe to send the first responders back. When they'd ask me about this, I'd point out that the last thing they would want and we would want is in the process of trying to recover, and the possibility, there's still a possibility someone could be alive, someone could still be breathing, someone could be there, that the last thing you want to have happen is have that building collapse and kill 10, 20, 30, 50 firefighters or wound them or first responders. So, but Mike, they're realistic. It just brought back so many memories. It's bad enough. It's bad enough to lose somebody. But the hard part, the really hard part, is to not know whether they're surviving or not. Just not have any idea. When the accident took my wife and my family, the hardest part was, were my boys going to get out? Are they going to make it? And not knowing. When you're flying home from Washington, you get the news, you just don't know. So but I was amazed. As you know, I've done a lot of these circumstances where I've met with families who have had great loss. And what amazed me at this group of people was their resilience, their absolute commitment, their willingness to do whatever it took to find an answer. I walked away impressed by their strength. And Nancy Bloomberg, do you have a question?
Yeah.
I was told.
Oh, thank you. What did you learn, if anything, about the collapse of the building? Is there anything more you learned from investigators or the FEMA administrator?
No, it's underway. I don't, and the director of FEMA is with me here. We don't have any firm proof of what's happened. There's all kinds of rational speculation about whether or not the rebars were rusted, whether or not the cement, whether it's limestone or not, but a lot of the families who survived talked about how upset they were that in the last years that they've been here, how there was one condominium complex built across the street and a road was purchased, and while they were living there, they would hear the drilling and they'd feel their building moving and shaking. There are all kinds of discussions about whether or not they thought that water level rising, what impact it had. And interesting to me, I didn't raise it, but how many of the survivors and how many of the families talked about the impact of global warming, how much it, and they'd know exactly, but they talked about sea levels rising and about how there were, and the combination of that and the concern about incoming storms, incoming tropical storms. And so, but I don't think there is at this point any definitive judgment as to why it collapsed and what can be done to prevent it from happening and what other buildings may have to be inspected to determine if they have the same problems. I'm supposed to head out and catch up with the governor, so I want to thank you all for taking the time.
President, can we ask you about two matters away from where we are now? First is, while you've been speaking, a top associate of the former president has been in a New York court pleading not guilty to various financial charges. Do you have a reaction to that? And secondarily, if I can, does the Supreme Court's ruling today on an important voting rights decision add to the sense of urgency you feel about pursuing voting rights legislation at this time?
I know nothing about the first circumstance because I've been gone. I don't have any idea, so I'm not going to comment on that. And even if I did, I wouldn't comment on an ongoing case if it's an ongoing case. With regard to the second point, I think I did get a summary on the way down on the plane of the Supreme Court decision. It is mildly positive in the sense that there's a remedy available based on the particular voting decision. I think that it is critical that we make a distinction between voter suppression and suspension. The ability of a state legislative body to come along and vote, their legislature vote to change who is declared the winner, I find to be somewhat astounding. But the Supreme Court did not rule that way today, to the best of my knowledge. And but I'll have much more to say about that because I plan on speaking extensively on voting rights and as well as going on the road on this issue. So thank you all very much.